Hey everybody, it's Jang here from UltimateRC.com with my full review of the Traxxas two-wheel drive. Now this particular one is the Chad Hord edition, which comes with a brushed motor and 2.4 GHz radio system. There are a whole bunch of different permutations of radio and motor combinations as well as bodies, so be sure to keep that in mind when you're looking at actual slashes that are for sale. Now this truck was the originator. This was the one that started the entire short course RC craze. Many companies and individuals have tried to do this general type of style of RC vehicle since the 1980s, but the Slash is the one that really caught on and started the whole industry-wide movement. Underneath that semi-scale race truck body, though, is a surprise. A very non-racy chassis. It has as much center clearance as you'd expect on a monster truck. The main chassis piece itself is huge, way oversized, and it places a lot of components way up high in the air, including the heavy battery. Thankfully, at least those high-mounted electronics are waterproof, including the servo, the brushed-only XL5 electronic speed controller, and the box that houses the receiver. The included battery pack is a 7-cell nickel-metal hydride with a 3000 mAh capacity. They also include a basic slow wall charger to get you started with this. The brushed motor is Traxxas' standard Titan 12-turn 550 sized motor, and it transfers its power into a brushless ready transmission with metal gears and an open gear diff that is not sealed. There's also an externally adjustable slipper clutch. The Slash's suspension is pretty typical two-wheel drive off-road fare, and it uses plastic-bodied shocks with progressive rate springs. You can see how the coils are not all evenly spaced. There are 5 lower shock mounting holes on the rear arms, 2 up front, but you have no options up top. Camber is adjustable all the way around with beefy metal turnbuckles, and you can also adjust your front toe angle. The tires on this model are officially licensed scale replicas of some BF Goodrich's, and they look amazing, but they don't feel amazing. They're quite stiff, especially around the shoulders. The cheapest two-wheel drive Slash models come with a 27 MHz AM radio, but this Chad Hord edition came with a 2.4 GHz set. This one is programmable, but you have to use just these 2 little buttons and have to look at one little LED light to go through an entire menu system to figure out exactly where each function is. Once you select a function, you can actually adjust it from the second dial up top. Thankfully, in the battery compartment here, there is a cheat sheet that you can always carry with you. And this shows you the exact order of button presses and how that LED light will shine and blink back to you to let you know where you are and what you're doing. It's not very convenient, but it does let you change all the important stuff like expo and endpoints and dual rate. Fresh out of the box on the first charge of the included battery, this truck topped out at 22 miles per hour. Once the battery and motor both break in, you can expect more around 25, and with a 2S LiPo it might go a hair higher than that. And that's with the default gearing, which is safe to run continuously under most conditions. The driving experience with the two-wheel drive Slash is interesting. It has a ton of body roll. It also squats under acceleration, and it dives when you put on the brakes. Interestingly enough, that's all by design. You see, it's supposed to look like a real short course truck going around the track. And the real ones have a ton of suspension travel, and because they're so heavy and moving so fast and getting so much grip, they do move around through that suspension travel all the time. Getting all of that realistic movement is the reason why the chassis on this is so tall, so that the center of gravity is intentionally high up so that it will lean all around. And that's also the reason it has those odd progressive rate springs. Most performance-oriented RCs have linear rate springs. These are extra soft at first, which allows the vehicle to lean over or to squat or whatnot. And then once those springs are partly compressed, they become much stiffer so that the whole vehicle doesn't continue to roll or squat or dive. If you're new to hobby grade RC, or if you're really just looking to get a very scale driving experience, I think you'll really enjoy the way that the Slash handles right out of the box. If you're experienced with and spoiled by good handling RCs, then the Slash's stock suspension setup will probably drive you insane. The stock tires didn't perform as badly as I expected. Part of that is because of just the slow speed and low torque of the vehicle on the whole compared to modern brushless setups. It can easily spin donuts on loose dirt, but when you don't want it to spin out, it generally doesn't. Though the stock steering servo is a little bit slow, the slow movement of the suspension also gives you plenty of time to react. The truck doesn't hook around or fishtail easily. For just general bashing around, the Slash is easy to handle and pleasant to drive. I was most surprised by its handling over rough terrain, where as long as you keep the speed low, that's where that soft suspension and plenty of wheel travel really works out quite well, as you can see here. A lot of the bumps and ruts just get soaked up by the suspension, and the ample ground clearance helps keep the truck from getting high-centered. So, now that you've seen how the Slash handles being driven, let's check out how it handles being thrashed. Stop. No. With the way the big body covers everything, it absorbs most of the impact of cartwheels. That's weak. I need something more violent. Okay, hard to get more violent than full speed into a wall at an angle, but did it do any good? Not really. Nothing broke. In fact, of the 4 two-wheel drive Slashes that I've owned, 2 of which being brushless, I can only vaguely remember one breakage on one of them at one point at one time. Of course, this is not to say that this is an indestructible truck, and certainly if you drive it like you hate it, stuff will start to go wrong. All things considered, though, I'd say it's pretty darn tough. So here are my overall thoughts about the two-wheel drive Slash brushed edition. I couldn't be happier that this thing was released. It single-handedly started up an entirely new class of RC that reinvigorated the entire hobby during a time when it was kinda down. It also brought together 2 things that really need to be together more frequently but rarely ever are: racing and realism. However, keep in mind that this thing was released back in 2008, and even in its time, its design had a fundamental shortcoming in the form of that really high center of gravity. The progressive spring setup was also a nice little thing for a little bit of realism out of the box, but I think the novelty of that has worn off by now. The Slash is still a really good truck for folks starting out, and I think it still provides good value. It's also available across a wide range of different prices. Depending upon how much you pay, you'll get different features. All of them are based on the same chassis design and layout though, so they'll all suffer from the same handling problems. If you ever want to get into competitive racing, competitive short course racing specifically, don't get a Slash. Yes, there are plenty of folks out there who have been able to become competitive at the local club level with Slashes, but they had to do a lot to their vehicles to get to that point. Look at the Slash as just a basher, and something that's a lot safer and cheaper to beat on than the more race-specific modern short course trucks. Now, since I have this Slash here and it's working perfectly fine, I'm going to spend a little extra time with it, start tuning it up a little bit, share some tips and tricks for how to make these things handle much better without spending a ton of money. That'll all be covered in later videos, so be sure to watch for those. But for now, thank you very much for watching. I hope you got some good information out of this video, and I hope to talk to you again soon in the next one.